Greetings all, Raphael X here with another video. Subscribe, click on the like button, leave a comment, share this video, and all of that good stuff. So let us start with a prayer. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Gloria Patri et Filio et Spiritus Sancto, sic ut erat in principio et nunc et semper et in saecula saeculorum. Amen. Ave Maria, sede sapientiae, ora pro nobis. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. All right. I hope all are doing well on this Memorial Day. Of course, we remember, right, the soldiers in the U.S. who have passed, right, who gave their life, the ultimate sacrifice. And we also remember because the day after Pentecost, so we're within the Triduum of Pentecost, and traditionally we are within the octave of Pentecost, which doesn't exist. It was suppressed in the Novus Ordo. And there's an interesting story regarding that, actually. I had a professor who was actually worked for the congregation. I think it's called the Congregation of the Sacraments, who deals with the sacraments there in Rome. And he told us that Paul VI actually suppressed unknowingly the octave of the Pentecost. So the Monday after the Sunday of Pentecost, he went into the sacristy and saw the green vestments and asked, right, his server, his altar server, essentially. He asked, well, where are the red vestments? And the altar server, knowing what he had done, I don't know who it was, or maybe it was a Monsignor who responded, but it was in the sacristy, told him, Your Holiness, you have suppressed the octave of Pentecost. And he broke down and wept. So a lot of us, we throw blame on Paul VI, but, it's not really his fault. He wasn't very, traditional Pope, but a lot of it, because popes delegate and things like that, so not a lot of it's not their fault. So anyway, pardon the sweating here. Something is the air conditioning is not working very well, so it is extremely hot. So I'll not sweat whatever's in my control as much. But today I want to talk about Garabandal, right, in the north, right center there of Spain. Garabandal, a place where Our Lady appeared, supposedly, a private revelation in the 1960s. Interesting era, right? There was a huge revolution going on, a spiritual revolution going on with Vatican II, and afterwards, a revolution in a negative sense, a sexual revolution, right? The rock and roll, the hippie generation, make love not war, all that stuff, drugs, free sex, free love, all that. In the 1960s. So it's interesting that Our Lady appeared at this time. So there's actually, the church says there's three categories when it comes to private revelation. So there are those that are condemned. They don't consist of anything supernatural, or at least they're not divine, right? So rather meaning that they're not from God. So rejected from the church. Then there are those that the church positively affirms, that they accept, right? Like Fatima, Lady of Lourdes, right? Those are accepted. And then there's a middle ground, which is, right, it's not decided. Well, first of all, in those that are approved, there's definitely a ranking, right? There's definitely a ranking of the apparitions. Like, for example, Fatima, which is approved revelation, is much more important than Our Lady of Rwanda, which is also approved a revelation by the church. So, yes, and when we say approved, we mean approved on the level of the universal church, the papal level, because a diocese or a bishop can approve it, but it's not officially approved we could say on the papal level. So most of the apparitions are in this middle category, which, nor yay nor nay. So they're kind of there in limbo, and there's just, the church cannot, because the church really proceeds scientifically. The church cannot keep up with all this proliferation of Marian apparitions. I mean, this last century has seen more Marian apparitions than all the centuries past combined. So are we getting close to the end times? Yes, it seems so. So Garabandal, why I believe it is legit. Garabandal, again, Our Lady appears in 1960 to four young ladies, pure, devout ladies in a devout part of Spain. And when she appears to them, they're constantly in ecstasy. Let me share. Um, I just have uh, some images here. Let me just share that real quick so you can see. See right here, and I just kind of looked it up, and you can see when you look at Garabandal, you constantly see kind of little girls looking up, and when they interact with people too, they would go towards them, looking up, kind of in ecstasy. So they actually did a movie not too long ago, which is pretty well done. I would advise anyone to see it on Garabandal. Um, Solo Dios lo sabe is the subtitle of it, but very interesting. And again, I think it's legit. When these girls were in ecstasy, they could not be taken out of ecstasy. Physical force, even being pinched by needles, they could not be taken out of ecstasy. And they would respond like they would have an interior impulse. There were no cell phones at the time. I don't even know if they had regular telephones. So they would have an interior impulse, feeling of joy, and then they would meet at the place of the apparition, at the apparition site, right? Just being interiorly impulse. And there's religious witnesses to this. There's also a religious witness who saw them floating. Many witnesses who have been at the apparition site during the apparitions have prayed for a sign, and then one of the girls, Conchita being the most popularly known, would go up to them in ecstasy and give them the cross to kiss. So there's nothing here of vainglory. There's nothing here of vainglory at all. And there's a lot of the girls are totally here for the glory of God. You see that they're not looking, right, to promote themselves, at least not explicitly. So we do see a lot of in Garamandal, a lot of similarities with Fatima. So first of all, the angel comes to prepare them. The angel comes. Also, an angel gives them the Holy Eucharist, Saint Michael. And at one point, Our Lady said to them, they are going to, the angel is going to give you the Eucharist so that everyone else could see it. Because prior to that, it was invisible. People could not see the children taking the Eucharist. In ecstasy, again, um, two visions. So again, when Mary appears a lot, there's it's kind of problematic, right? She very brief, brief message, straight to the point, nothing sensationalist. Which, not to say that that can't happen, but usually when it's publicized like this, usually it's usually toned down. Now, what's interesting, Garamandal, is it seems like as a third secret of Fatima, there might have been certain suppression by the bishops, because Garamandal does talk about um, how bishops and cardinals are going, many of them, not most of them, are going towards a path of condemnation. So this is fascinating. There's a story of Father Luis Maria Andrew, who didn't believe in them at first, but then he went and saw. He stayed with the girls during the ecstasies, and then he saw, he had a conversion, we can say, and he screamed towards the people in the back, the bystanders, this is a miracle. And he died, actually, and he died of happiness. Many prophecies, many other interesting things. So I do want to go over the two messages. I want to do this video in two parts because I don't want to talk too much about the Garamandal in one video. Just kind of, I don't want to extend the video, rather. So the first message, which was very interesting, the people go to see, and they kind of were disillusioned. They were upset in a sense. The first message was, I'm going to translate from Spanish because it's Spanish. Obviously, Our Lady spoke to the seers in Spanish. Like I said, muchos sacrificios. We have to do many sacrifices, a lot of penance, visit the Blessed Sacrament frequently. But before, we have to be very good. And if we don't do it, a chastisement will come. The cup is already being filled, and if we don't change our hearts, a chastisement a very big chastisement will come. So that was the first, and you know what's interesting? This was the first message in it was October 18th, 1961. So the second message, which is going to be built off the first one, kind of says this, and this is going to be on sorry, just give me 1 second here. Okay, I find it. I found it. It is January 1st, 1965. So barely 4 years. And this is built off the first message. Our Lady supposedly says, since you haven't completed and you haven't made my message known, or you haven't spread my message, the message of October the 18th, I will tell this last message. Before the cup was being full, now it is overflowing. Priests, bishops, and cardinals, many of them are going on the way to perdition, and they will bring with them many souls. The Eucharist, um, cada vez, time by time, is given less and less importance. You must avoid the anger of God on yourselves, being good. If you ask for pardon with a sincere soul, God will pardon you. I, your mother, through the intercession of the Archangel Saint Michael, wish that you will amend yourselves. These are the last messages. I love you very much, and I do not want your condemnation. Ask us sincerely, and we will give it to you. You must sacrifice yourselves more, and think of the passion of Christ. All right, I want to end it there. In the next video, I'll talk more about actually what's going on with Garabandal. But these are messages, and these are much closer to us chronologically than Fatima. So let us consider the messages. And I do want to end with this. This is really important. I'm going to start my next video on Garabandal with this also. That even though it seems, which it is true, we have to be careful with extraordinary messages. We do have to be careful with private revelations. Private revelations, their function is just to explain public revelation, which we do as Catholics have obligation to believe in, right? Public revelation. Private revelation is just kind of to build off there to explain public revelation. So we don't have an obligation to believe in it, even though there's a hierarchy. And we do have to be careful with it. But I want to show you this interesting quote by Pope Urban the Seventh. Pope Urban the Eighth, I'm sorry. His Holiness Pope Urban the Eighth stated, in cases which concern private revelations, it is better to believe than not to believe. For if you believe and it is proven true, you will be happy that you have believed, because our Holy Mother asked it. If you believe and it should be proven false, you will receive all blessings as if it had been true, because you believed it to be true. Interesting. Now, obviously, we have to qualify that, because if we're totally focused on or disorderly focused on private revelations, that could definitely lead us astray from um, church teaching, right? From the ordinary spiritual life of virtue, of the Catholic way of using reasoning illuminated by faith. Yes, it could deviate us, but nevertheless, Pope Urban the Eighth said that. So when in doubt, believe, essentially, is what he said. But again, use your minds, right? Pray to God for guidance. And how do we form our consciousness? We ask for spiritual leaders who we trust. Right? All right. Well, we'll leave it at that. And God bless you. And until next time, take care. Bye now.